Hi, and welcome to White Hat versus Black Hat SEO Show. My name is Josh Bachynski on this merry SEOMAS event. And with me today, I have two of our awesome guest hosts who frequently reappear. I have Ted Kabitis. Say hi, Ted.
Hello.
And also joining us is the Facebook master of disaster, Steve. Facebook.
And so much more.
Fantastic Fantasia. Say hi, Steve.
Hey, everybody.
So I'm very happy to have you guys on the show, this first show of 2018. It's going to be a great year for SEO. It's going to be fantastic. Things are really shaping up to look like it's going to be really, really good. I just want to say into the What's New segment. Well, we'll move right into the What's New segment. There's some interesting stuff I'll get to in a second, but I just want to say I've got a bunch of new tests running, some really interesting SEO tests running. I've got sites ranking all over the place. It's going to be a really, really good year. So I'm glad you guys are watching. I'm glad you guys have joined us. I'm glad you folks are watching. If you have any questions, before I forget, if you have any questions and you're watching on the YouTube page, by all means, oh no, that's the wrong page. Get the right page going. There we go. If you have any questions and you're watching live on YouTube, you can type them in the top right-hand side. Make sure to use 3 or 4 asterisks so I see it. Otherwise, I might miss it. So with that in mind, I want to move over to the what's going on, what's new in the kind of world today. And an interesting kind of Google snafu came up. I don't know if you guys saw this. Ted, you probably saw this. So I'll share my screen here so you guys can see what's going on. So there was recently a Google search glitch, they're calling it, right? And this happens all the time. This used to happen with Google bombing. But apparently, LeVar Ball came up as the MBA founder in Google search. If you searched for MBA founder, LeVar Ball would come up, and it says he's the MBA founder. And so people emailed me about this. More than one, actually, emailed me and said, how does this work? How did this happen? You know, is it Google bombing? No, it's not Google bombing. Google bombing was the old, for example, when good old George W. Bush was the president in those our United States. A bunch of SEOs built thousands of links pointing to a page, dumbest person in the world. And so when you search dumbest person in the world, George Bush would come up first. And that was because from the semantic additions of links in the background. Google since went, oops, and they fixed that, right? But this new one is not links. It has to do with how they're constructing entities. So,
well, this strikes me as a category of exploit that's more social than related to search technology. I call them facts of opportunity. So you could take something that nobody is advertising, like Josh Bachynski invented cottage cheese. And because there's nothing on the internet about it, you can rank for it really well. There's no competition.
That's right.
So it's a fact of opportunity.
Yeah. So it's interesting you said that. And so it depends on what you mean by social. You're actually right. So I did a little digging to find out, because multiple people asked me, how does this work, Josh? How did this happen? And I'm like, okay, I'll show you how it works. It has to work with Hummingbird and their new entity database, right? So somehow Google is spidering all the interwebs and is seeing LeVar, whatever his full name is, LeVar Ball and MBA founder in the same context, in the same places on the same page. I thought maybe it was on Twitter. Maybe a bunch of people were saying that LeVar Ball was the MBA founder on Twitter. I thought maybe along your lines there, Ted, but I actually did some digging and I found what the actual reason here is. I'll share it with you now. So here it is. If you do a search for LeVar Ball, MBA founder, or just founder in quotations, in separate quotations, the first thing that comes up is Wikipedia. And if you look here, it talks about when it was founded and who the commissioner is, supposedly. So it's basically, and this is not so surprising when you remember that, of course, most of Google's entity database is fleshed out from Wikipedia. So this is, I think, if I had to guess, this would be my guess as to exactly where Hummingbird parsed this information and said, oh, the verb founded or found is associated with the name LeVar Ball, who is the commissioner. So that means he's also the founder. RankBrain and Hummingbird made this kind of connection, right? The Google AI made this kind of connection. So It's interesting. It's scary on one hand. It's interesting that's how smart Google is. It's smart enough to make mistakes. Does that make sense? Like you would say your 5-year-old reading this page. No. That doesn't mean LeVar Ball's the founder. This is just a page on Wikipedia. But Google's about as smart as a 5-year-old right now who would make that mistake, right? I know, Ted, you have some kids. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's smart. I'd say it's, the kind of noise you get when you take a programmatic templated approach to all information. It's a classic problem.
Right. Well, you're cynical because you know how to program these things, so you don't see the magic.
Yeah, I know a bit about natural language processing and trying to, determine the parts of speech and breaking down sentence clauses. Like I've done that development before. And so, I wouldn't say that this shows any degree of smartness algorithmically. It looks like Google fell for the same trap that everybody falls into.
Right. And I love how they just, they get into trouble for the fake news area, right? They get in trouble for all those kinds of areas. They get in trouble for
the facts of opportunity.
Your facts of opportunity. Exactly. Like no one, unfortunately, a shooting happens in the States, as it does every week, apparently. And no, there's no real news stories for it yet. And so someone's stupid opinion on Twitter is the first thing that comes up when you search for it. And then Google gets blamed for that. I don't know if that's fair or not. Believe it or not, I'm probably going to side with Google on this one. I know it might sound weird, me siding with Google on anything, but I mean, I think it's just a formatting problem. If they just put, this is what's happening in social media right now. Because if they know they don't have any fact-based things to put up there, they could just change their front page and then everyone would get their panties out of a knot. Speaking of panties being in a knot, here's the next thing that I want to show. There's a funny article on Search Engine Roundtable that apparently there's a rumor that Danny Sullivan was hired by Google to keep quiet. What? What is this? This doesn't make any sense at all. It's not like Danny Sullivan was outing Google or saying anything controversial in any way, shape, or form about Google, or would have ever have said anything controversial about Google, or would have put Google to any task whatsoever. So who gives a flying F if they hire Danny Sullivan to keep him quiet? I mean, give me a break. I think that's one of the silliest things I think of SEO conspiracies I've seen, and it's early in the year. Ted, if you have an opinion about that.
Well, I don't think that Google hired him to keep him quiet. I think he was hired to be a spokesperson, and I believe his knowledge of what's happening behind the curtain is probably limited. And if he wants
more than he would admit, probably.
If he wants to disprove it right away, I mean, the whole SEO community would welcome that. All he has to do is tell us something useful and valuable as SEOs that Matt, Gary, and John would never, ever share. Right. And that would simply prove that he's not being quiet.
Right. Yeah. Which you'll notice the proof has not been forthcoming. Yeah. He has not said anything beyond what anybody. He hasn't said anything yet, actually. He's just answered to things on Twitter. He hasn't said anything more controversial than Gary, John, or any of the previous Webmaster Trends analysts, for sure. A lot of them, Andrei Lepatsev, for example, who worked at the Dublin office, not sure if he's still there. He said the most controversial stuff in the last years, for sure, hands down. And notice he doesn't do those talks anymore. So it's not surprising at all.
Yeah. So I don't see anything nefarious.
No, I just see the same public relations, either incompetence or public relations speak that has no substance to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy every time I watch a John Mueller hangout where people from India, nothing against people from India. I love people from India. I love Indian food too. I even like Bollywood. It's kind of cool with the hand gesture.
Oh, Bollywood's awesome.
No, I'm serious. I like it, but they seem to be a few years stuck in the past, and they keep. I can't count the number of times someone from India has come on to the Hangouts and said, "John, please tell me the ranking factors." Like literally, just verbatim. Like, please tell me how to rank. And Mueller's like, You don't get that I work for Google, do you? I can't tell you these things. You know, I'm not going to tell you these things. I'm here to dissuade and misinform about these things. In fact, if you get too close to the truth.
They could, though. I mean, we could live in a universe where there's an open source search engine, where there's, you know, a committee that votes on changes to the algorithm, which are published before they deploy. There's no reason you couldn't have a completely open democratic search engine.
Boy, I remember someone who had a TED Talk on that exact same topic. I don't know who that was. Maybe it was Steve. I'm not sure. But okay, so moving right along. Speaking of Steve, because Steve is here, I want to start picking Steve's brain about Facebook. Steve.
Yes.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm rocking and rolling.
You're rocking and rolling.
Interesting on this thing. Facebook just rolled out super secret like Facebook does. They're kind of like Google. They don't announce anything.
Oh.
There's a, and I have to actually dig this up. You can go onto your Facebook feed, and there's a URL link, and you can find if you had liked or shared or engaged with any of the fake news, Trump, Russia stuff. That's come. I just was reading about it, so you can actually. It's super secret. Like they don't want to tell anybody, even though they're telling everybody. But you can actually go in through that, and I'd be really interested to see, you know, everybody out there, what people are doing, what they liked, what they commented, what they engaged on, which was actually, you know, propaganda from Russian ad agencies.
Wow, I'm impressed.
It's pretty big. Yeah, they've been talking about it for a little bit, and then they did have an update that came out a week ago, 2 weeks ago, where they were really trying to crack down on comment like, you know, you ever see those clickbait ads where, or it's not even an ad, it's just an engagement post, but it's, you know, they'll show a picture of the person in 2010 and then they'll say what they look like now, and it's kind of cut off.
Right. Yeah.
You click and you go there and you get blown up. They're trying to cut down on that, so that's part of that whole thing.
Wow, I would say 1 point Facebook, 0 points Google. I mean, Google is ignoring that they had anything to do with the fake news propaganda for
they're coming out with it. Yeah, they're obviously they're like Google in the same boat. They're not going to come out and absolutely admit it because they're taking money. You know, they don't want to, and then they also don't want to admit that some of they charge you for clicks that don't happen. You know, there's a lot of that stuff, so it's kind of a snowball. So they're very is selective on what they say and how much they reveal, but it's definitely there. It was actually, if anybody's out there who's interested in that, 60 Minutes did an interview with Trump's chief Facebook advertiser, who was a web designer who got hired by the Trump campaign like 2 years into it, or I mean like 18 months before it went huge. Got hired by him to build a website and ended up snowballing into where he had 100 people working for him. And he was doing Facebook ads. I think he said $100 million they spent on Facebook ads. It was crazy to see what they were doing, and you know, especially now that we see what they were promoting, it's crazy. He was a web guy that just happened to, you know, probably watched your podcast.
I'm sorry. I find that's the best thing. Oh,
I'll send you a link. Maybe next time we could drop it in. But it's a 60 Minutes thing. I forget his name. But anyway, he was the head of Trump's Facebook advertising, and they were running, I think he said 35,000 ads a month, which, to give you guys a perspective, I have clients who run 350, 400,000 a month. One client will run maybe 25, 30 ads. So the idea of 35,000 is just, I mean, that's just crazy.
35,000 ads.
Ads. Yeah.
Targeted.
What he did is they would micro-target it. So they would use, he would target, you know, he'd create an audience and only show it to 15 people in Jacksonville, Florida. Now, you can't actually show it to 15 people in Jacksonville, but you can create an audience that's only 1,000 people in the United States, which would then circulate into only 15 in Jacksonville and 12 in Wisconsin, and that's kind of how they did it.
Right. Yeah, and that's exactly the way you need to do it. You can really learn a lot about marketing, quite frankly. You know, people, obviously I'm Canadian, so I'm going to be shifted to the left just because I'm Canadian a little bit. And obviously I've been pretty vocal about not liking the Trump campaign or what's going on. But that being said, I have said, and I will say, he is someone on his team, or he is a master of social media marketing, of what we call negative marketing or negative social media.
Yeah.
Right?
I invite anybody.
Controversial. Everyone goes crazy.
Yep. If you're interested in that, I mean, watch it. They had Facebook reps on site, and they offered them to the Clinton campaign. Clinton campaign said no. His campaign said bring everybody you could possibly have. Now I have a series of Facebook reps as an agency, but I don't have one on site. So I mean, the idea that they were spending a lot of money.
It'd be funny if you tilted the camera over and there's just Bob over here. Hey, this is Bob from Facebook.
Yep, it is funny.
I have a question. He just answers it for me. He just tilt the camera back.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty.
Oh my God. Sorry, I was laughing so much earlier when you said that because it seems to me that's the kind of guy Trump is. What I mean, it's kind of baby boomers in general is that we don't know anything about technology. I have a cousin who does the web thing, and so I'll hire him to do it. And do you know Facebook? And he has nothing to do with Facebook, but he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll learn it because you're going to pay me." You know, and he's making a website at a WordPress. He doesn't even know HTML, and he does this. And now he's the Facebook czar for the campaign. But it sounds like someone there had half an idea what they were doing on Facebook.
Well, they learn quick. You learn very quick when you're spending that much money.
Yes, you will. And Facebook will call you and say, "Are you sure you want to do it that way?"
Yeah, well, they absolutely will. As soon as you spend a certain amount of money, they're going to reach out to you through email. They're going to start calling you and say, because they want you to spend more. So they're going to say, "Well, hey, why are you promoting clicks?" You know me, I would rant hand, never do a click ad.
There we go. We can go into a rant hand segment.
Yeah,
I want to get into the nuts and bolts of Facebook after this, but yeah, no, that is fascinating, and you can learn a lot about marketing in this day and age. And some people could say that I've used kind of a negative viral marketing campaign. You know, I went out there, I did some Whiteboard Fridays that were controversial for that purpose because I knew it would generate clicks. I wrote an article about a letter to Matt Cutts when he used to work for Google, knowing it would be controversial, and it got tens of thousands of hits, and that page, that site's still ranking. It's the best example I have of ye olde white hat SEO. Right? I never did any SEO on that site except for writing an article that was so controversial. It just generated links and generated traffic and generated. It's still ranking for queries.
Yeah. And now, if you really wanted to, you could create that as a page post ad, put a little bit of money behind it. It would probably go viral, shares, engagements, and then for a few $100s, you could probably get that reach even farther. And then you start getting the clicks from website to that particular page or wherever it was.
No, you're exactly right. And then when you put the one pixel in to get the retargeting, and then every other website they go to, they'd see an ad for that thing. No, you're absolutely right. And so that brings us a perfect segue into the nuts and bolts. So we're going to go into the nuts and bolts segment here. So because I have you here, you mentioned some stuff in our last video that I thought were very interesting. And so I wanted to get into a bit more detail about some of this Facebook stuff that's going on. So that's a good example. So let's say I wanted to do SEO the traditional white hat way. And just so everyone knows what I'm talking about, I mean, you probably already do, but just so everyone listening knows what I'm talking about is the white hats from Google. Google would have you believe, and the dyed-in-the-wool Google white hats would have you believe, you make something great, whatever it is, you sell table pads, you make the best table pad site possible, and it's so wonderful that people want to link to you, and you generate a huge buzz out there. People are buzzing about you on the social medias. They're talking about you. They're linking to you. They're building links on their blog, and they're sharing it all on social media and sharing your page all over the place. And this somehow magically will rank you. I've only seen it work in very limited cases where you could say something extremely controversial like I did. So how in Facebook would you properly target that? You'd make the ad not to your page, you'd make the ad to the website, or what would you do to really nuts and bolts? How would you get into that?
That exact scenario, how would you advertise it on Facebook? Or how does Facebook, okay. If you wanted to promote that, what you would do is you would create, it would be a blog post, right? On your ad or whatever. And then you would create an ad that summarizes that. And you would say, what was the headline again?
Maybe a video kind of entry.
Here's the thing with 2018 too, movement. Movement is the key. People are starting to get bored with static images. So I would do a slideshow or a video, something like that, to get some movement in there. But then you'd have a headline that says, what was the controversial comment? What was it that?
Oh, well, Matt Cutts and I had a private conversation at SMX West a couple of years ago where he put me to task because I've been bugging him for a while on Twitter. And so he said, okay, Josh, tell me why Google's so unethical. And so I did. And I kind of lambasted him for a few minutes. But in meanwhile, the article is kind of about how I was having a crisis of faith at the moment. Half of me was like, kiss his ass, get SEO secrets. And the other half of me was tell him what you really think, because now you have a chance to maybe make a change and do an ethical thing. And so I couldn't sleep for a few days after, because I was a little nicer than I probably should have been. And so I wrote an article saying what I thought really should have been said. He quit 2 months after, I'll add.
Wow. Well, so what you would do is
I don't want to say it was me who did it, but it was.
If that's what your goal, here's the nuts and bolts of it. The first thing you want to do is create a captivating headline, right? So it might be like, how did one man tell off Google? I don't know, something like that, right?
Sure.
And then do a small. What a lot of people are doing is doing these long post text ads, which are not working very well. It's going the other way. It's short. So you'd want to have a 1 sentence, 1.5 sentence text, a really captivating headline, a good display link that actually means something. So you wouldn't want it to say joshbachynski /.com. It would say, maybe joshbachynski.com / you can type whatever you want, / tells Google off, or whatever, something like that. Use that.
Why Google is super unethical or something like that.
You can't be too long. So now you're getting into the nuts and bolts. You have to look at the character length, right?
Right.
So you gotta be careful. You start getting into runoffs. So the same thing with your headline. If you're doing a desktop ad, you can have, I think, 160 characters on a desktop headline, but you can only have like 131, something like that. I have it written down somewhere.
Everything has to be very clickbaity.
Well, yeah, don't use that word, but everything has to be intriguing. Okay, you have to be disruptive.
What do you mean clickbaity, right?
You have to look, everybody does this. You have to get them to stop doing this, okay?
Right.
And how do you do that? By getting a headline. So that's kind of the format of your ad. You would then, the next step would be kind of the targeting. And so you're going to have to look at, what kind of targeting are you looking at and who you're doing it. So if you show it to the right audience, you can get very low cost clicks, and you can start getting people to go into your ad viral. You then, what you would do is you would create that ad as a conversion ad or a web traffic ad, but you wouldn't run a web traffic ad, because nobody in here should ever run a traffic ad. Okay.
Okay. So in the drop down, you choose a conversion ad.
Yeah, because this is very important. Why do you not run a web traffic ad? All web traffic ad is an ad that Facebook tells or optimizes for somebody to click on, not view, just click. So never run one of those, because all they're going to do is be clicky. What you want to do is run a conversion.
They won't get to your site? Oh, they'll stay on Facebook?
Well, they might not. I mean, what's their connection? What's your internet speed? What's your load up? All it's going to do is optimize to people who click everything. I love cats. Click. Manscaping. Click. They're targeting you. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so Weight Watchers, if they were targeting me. So you get away from that, and what you do is a conversion ad for landing page views. That's huge. That's a massive, massive boost. You'll cut your costs in half by doing that.
So a conversion ad for landing page views. So everyone listening to this right now, one, you should be running Facebook ads, because it's a super cheap mode of traffic that also boosts your SEO.
Yep.
2, you should be running conversion ads for landing page traffic.
Landing page views. View content ads. Yep.
View content ads for landing page traffic.
What you want to do is, so say there's 100 people out there, and 35 of them click your ad, but only about 25 of them go to your website. Okay, so you paid for 35, but only 25 went to your website.
Right. Yeah.
So what Facebook's going to do is it's going to say, wow, 35 people clicked. Okay, let me find 3,500 who match those 35. Now you have, let's say you have a 10% drop. So now 3,500, it's 350. Now that math is linear. It's not literally that math, but that's kind of what happens. On the flip side, if you optimize for a conversion landing page view, what you get is people who go to your website, and Facebook finds more people who go to your website. And that should be the goal.
Yes.
And so you would create that. That's the standard. That's what you're going to build everything around. But what you also want to do is piggyback on and take advantage of the fact that Facebook's a viral platform. So you would create an ad that is called a page post engagement ad, copying the page post ID of the web traffic ad or the conversion ad. So the likes and smileys both match. But now you're going to say to Facebook, show this ad to people who engage in it, like it, smiley it, make it really impressionable. And you get that kind of redundancy and the duplication, and it can become viral. I see.
So people will start seeing it in their feeds more organically, or?
Yeah, they'll start seeing, you'll get free impressions, because Facebook charges you per impression. They don't necessarily charge you per click. They give you a metric of 1,000 impressions, 10 clicks, $10 spent, 10 cents per click. and that's how you. But they charge you per impression anytime anybody looks at it.
Really?
Yeah. So now anybody, so they're going to show the ad no matter what. So why don't you tell it what you want it to do? Is you know, that's the big thinking. When you start now, when you're doing $100 campaign a month, it's not really a huge deal. When you start spending 100, 200, 300,000 a month, it's a huge deal. So what you guys can do out there though is you can benefit of the fact that you can take the same strategy that works at 500,000 a month, put it to $500 a month, and have much more
bang for your buck. Because of their so I mean, to say the same thing another way, to generalize it incredibly, is that you really should be twiddling around with all the demographic choices.
Oh, absolutely. You should be doing, I mean, you should be looking at what, like, why are you serving it to men and women at the same time, right? I mean, potentially, what if it's something that is there's a different viewpoint for each one? If it's a product that you want to gear towards men, gear towards women, create separate campaigns. You know, age demographic, location demographic, all those things can play out. What you can do is when you run your ad, you're going to start looking at that data. You're going to start seeing that the #1 lowest cost conversion is coming from 35-year-old men in Tampa, Florida. So start funneling your money to Tampa, Florida.
Boom! There, you found your sweet spot. You found your sweet demographic.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I see people doing is they're so reliant on this great algorithm that Facebook has. Let the algorithm sort it out. Let it just do it. You know, I mean, in the end, their idea, they just want to get paid per impression, not necessarily if you make any money. So, you know, if you just let it go, I see it showing hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars into like Montana, where the customers never even had a conversion in history in Montana.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you can really waste a lot of money.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of what we do. I mean, that's what SEOs do, is that we don't just rely on the algorithm. We have to tweak the content and tailor the experience so the algorithm works better and we serve better stuff. Exact same thing that you're doing. You should never just let Facebook do it. Now, you talked about demographics earlier, and this is very interesting. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to answer my question before I ask you the question. And I want to see what your answer is going to be. And then after that, we're going to start answering questions that are in the chat here, because some people have some questions in the chat. But quite often the problem is, though, is that they email me and they say, yeah, Josh, you said in your audit I should be doing Facebook ads, and it's really good for traffic. It's really good for sales. It's really good for brand exposure. It's really good for as a ranking signal, as long as the traffic seems to like what they find. And there's a good correlation that with Facebook ads, rankings go up. Turn off the Facebook ads, rankings go down. A lot of, not just me, a lot of people have noticed that as well. But how do I find my target demographic? How do I know that they're going to like it? How are you going to magically know that it's 35-year-old women who went to college in this state that are really who you should be trying to sell to? I know the answer for my SEO side. What's your answer for your Facebook?
The answer is at first you won't, unless you here's the, let me just give you. So Facebook has interest targeting, which is the worst, horrible, absolute. Get off it with it. As minute you can get off it. It's the worst.
So get off interest targeting whatsoever.
Interest targeting, yeah. I like cats. Okay, great. You know, that's not what you want to rely on. Interest targeting, third-party data, which is something you have to ask for. Now that's Visa credit cards, that's Experian credit reports. That's a little bit better. But then you have web visits, web traffic. Then you have lookalike audiences based off of conversions on your website. So the best way to do it would be to, if I sell blue hats, so then I have 1,000 people who purchased my blue hat last year, put a pixel on the website, create a conversion called purchase, then make a lookalike audience based on the purchases. Now that is something Facebook does very well. Lookalike audiences are awesome. And you can even start it in the United States and do a lookalike audience in Australia based on that. In UK, you can go across countries and things like that. So that's the biggest thing. So if you already have,
if you were an Australian-based company, if you set the pixel and on your conversion page and set it to a purchase event in Facebook, and then you could say, I want to run a lookalike audience in the States.
Yeah, you
will have custom made your perfect demographic already.
It's going to find the people. You can go through now. Then you can start doing So let's say you want to go to Spain. Well then, do a lookalike audience based in Spain. And you can do the Spanish language. So there's a whole other thing. But there's a lot of that going on. So the first thing is put a pixel and utilize that. But now if you went to a brand new site and had no traffic, you're going to be unless you have an email list of a customer list, you can upload that. You can serve it to those customers. You can make lookalike audiences off of that. That's a good start. But if you have absolutely nothing, you are going to be forced to do lookalike audiences. Now, what interest audience. So what I tell people and what I do as a practice is I do the lowest cost ad I can to generate an audience. So if I put it, what I want you to do, don't pay to try and get people to your website if you have no idea if they're even interested in you, right? Mm-hmm. What you would do is you would create a video and promote it, and then have and then you can retarget the people who watched your video, and video is super cheap. So make a 2-minute video, retarget people who watch 50%, then pay for the web click ad. Save yourself thousands and thousands and thousands and millions and billions and millions of dollars.
Right, and in fact, it should work better. It should convert better because essentially it's retargeting.
Yep. So what I do is I look at the 17 different ad types and I figure out what's the cheapest one that I can get, because Facebook's going to charge you for people looking at it. That's it. They charge you for you to look at it. They don't care what they do. And so you can create your own audience with a video and then retarget them based on the video view, and that's huge.
Is there any kind of, because here's on the SEO side how we would try and determine what the demographic is. We can make some educated guesses based on what they're searching for. Mm-hmm. But in Google Analytics, Google has a lot of demographic information as well. It's not as good as Facebook, mm-hmm. but if you have a universal analytics set up, it will tell you what the demographics are of your people coming to your website. It'll tell you if they like movies, like news, if they're male or female. It'll tell you their age range. Yep. It'll give you some basic demographic information you can then take over and port over to Facebook. At least you could do it manually. You could check it in Google Analytics and you can go, oh, okay, then you can make your Facebook ads. Now, what I want to know, is there any way that you can automatically merge the two?
I don't. Facebook and Google don't like each other. So there's not. I don't know of any Google Analytics. They honestly, like, it's really tough. If I have a client who lives and dies by Google Analytics, it's really a challenge for me, because Facebook Analytics and Google Analytics, never the twain shall meet. They're like two ships in the night. So what you can do though is you can export that data into Excel, and you can start manipulating it, looking at it, creating pivot tables, things like that. That's a off-campus kind of thing. But I don't know of any direct integration for Google Analytics. Exporting data.
YouTube as well. Yeah, you're right. Google and Facebook never get along. They're competitors in this. In internet marketing, they're competitors, right? Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Steve. That was fantastic. I want to get over, as always, it was brilliant knowledge. Everyone who's watched this video, you should go back and listen to that part again, because that will save you huge money. It'll help as a major SEO signal, and it will boost your sales as well, everything he just said. So it was fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Now let's go to the questions here, folks. As you can see, I'm wearing the Merry SEOMAS t-shirt. It is still SEOMAS, so I'm going to try and answer as many free SEO questions as I can. If you have a website you want me to look at, go ahead and put it in the chat. We have around 20 minutes left. I can see if I can get to a website and give you some free SEO advice in that regard. And because I want to mention, just because it's still SEOMAS, I'm still offering that 30% discount on audits. If you mention SEOMAS in the subject line of the email, I can give you a 30% off your SEO audit. My SEO audits are guaranteed to make you rank and sell better within 6 to 9 months. I guarantee it.
Guaranteed.
So,
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. That's right. You heard it from Steve. So let's see. How do you like the shirt? Steven says. You could put a comment underneath saying shirt +1. That'd be how you do that. Ken Tippins asks, how do you believe voice search will impact organic SERPs in 2018? Ken, that's a fascinating question. For the longest time, I didn't think that voice search was a thing, because RankBrain is parsing all of these search queries. So if you say, show me a massage therapist near me, that RankBrain is going to change that to massage therapist Victoria, BC, or because it knows where I am or my actual geographic location. That's how I thought it was going to work. So Mike Pierce and Brad, those guys, some people in their Black Hat area of the world, they were actually optimizing for what was it? Pizza delivery near me, like the actual words near me, obviously targeting people who are talking to their phones, who are saying, pizza delivery near me. They had like pizzadeliverynearme.com kind of a thing, and they would seem to be getting some traction on that. And I thought that's the weirdest. I don't know, Ted, if you have a opinion about this. I thought that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like, clearly, why is Google using the semantic near me to match what it, I mean, have you seen this, Ted?
Well, it's a common search pattern, so it makes sense, you know. But before voice search, people would type in, you know, pizza delivery near me directly into search. And you have competing components of the algorithm. You have the semantic part that's trying to understand the query and deliver the right results.
Right.
And then you have the TF IDF search relevance that's saying, hey, this document exactly matches those search terms, so it
says near me. Right.
So, you know, they both probably score well for different reasons. And so,
but I thought RankBrain would specifically be taking the semantic near me out of the, like, they talk about RankBrain that it's like a pre-processing kind of algorithm.
Keep in mind that nobody knows really what RankBrain does. You know, my personal belief is that it's canonicalizing search terms, so it's taking longer tail searches and making them shorter tail, like you described.
Right.
But you know, I don't know that it's changing the meaning. It still wants all the clauses of that search to be evaluated as true, so they have to be equivalent shorter tail searches.
Yeah, no, you're right. So to answer that question, Ken, I gotta believe, because here's what's going to happen is that if everyone realizes that the semantic and the TF-IDF is still being processed for any queries that has near me in it, then everyone is going to have, you know, air conditioning repair near me, San Diego, California, you know, .com, right? And they're all going to be trying to hit those keywords. And then Google is going to notice this, that everyone's trying to hit it, and then suddenly it's not going to work anymore. So, I mean, that's kind of a lame-ass white hat answer, but you know, I don't know. Who knows how long it would work? It seemed to work before. I haven't tested it personally. I haven't done anything with it personally. So it's hard for me to say. You could try it. You could try optimizing for it. You could put that semantic in your pages all over the place and just don't rely on it. Just don't buy servicenearme.com.
Well, it's exactly the kind of thing that once it hits critical mass in Google's web spam training set, that, yeah, it would then start to filter out.
Yeah, but it's kind of I don't know if people will do it, because I think they think like I do, that RankBrain is supposed to know what that means and pluck it out essentially. But who knows? We have to at the end of the day, you have to test it, and I haven't run any tests on that. It'd be hard to run some tests on that because I don't do any local tests that are in my gibberish pages. I have to think, how would I test that in a single variable environment? It'd be hard to do.
Yeah, and it's hypothetically possible that near me could be a brand name, it could be a last name, it could be a Latin word, it could be, you know, there are so many ways it could collide with other parts of search.
Yeah, all it's going to take is for someone to make a Tinder knockoff called Near Me. and then suddenly, you know, Google's gonna be really confused about when people search massage therapist near me. You know, what do they want exactly? What are they looking for? They want to get happy and healthy. Michael Johnson asks, and I saw you were talking to Ted to him. Do no index pages, whether no index from robots text file or on page robots meta tag, pass PR authority to pages it's linking to? Michael Johnson, this is one hell of an SEO question. Okay, so first thing, no index pages and robot out pages are not the same thing. They are totally different things. Robot out page, they still read, but they can't show in the SERPs, but they will show a snippet for it and saying, we can't show you this page because it's roboted out. No index, they will remove from the index entirely, and you won't see it in there whatsoever. So they're not the same thing, but I don't mean to jump all over you, but I just want to say that out there so people understand. Two, we did test this recently in SEO Intelligence Agency, and because Forbes recently started, Forbes used to be this great place that people thought they could drop links. Recently, on the Forbes blogs that are public kind of post, Forbes has recently no-indexed all those pages, and they don't pass any juice. We tested if they passed juice, and no juice was passed. We could not make a gibberish page raise from a Forbes link that was no-indexed in the header. So, and that confirms also what John Mueller has said in multiple Hangouts, that a no index page will probably not pass any juice.
Did you test follow no index?
Yes, it's follow no index.
Okay.
So that's good you asked that, because you're right. According to the spec, a meta declaration of no index but follow is still supposed to flow PageRank, and used to would have flowed PageRank, but apparently not anymore. Apparently they think if the page is no index, not in the index, it's not worth passing any juice externally. Now I noticed, Michael, you asked earlier, later on down here, you asked about internal pages versus external pages. That probably stands to reason. That's a good question. We'd have to test it. I've never tested it. And that's something I could test. I'm going to write that down, actually. Where's a pen? So that's something I could test in a single variable environment. I can't use your pen, Steve.
Oh.
You can write it down for me, but then I'm never going to hear from you again. So how am I going to know?
Interwebs.
Okay, so test. So thank you, Michael. I will test that. Test no index internal link. I can have that test ready for you probably in a week. I mean, that would work right away. That's an easy test to do. So I will check it out. Steve says the beard looks good, and Ted says a +3 beard of knowledge. I appreciate that. I think I'm going to grow it out a little bit. I'm not sure.
You gotta get why don't you get that like angular, 300 look?
Yeah, this is Sparta, and I'll kick Matt Cutts into the pit of doom.
I can grow a beard right now if you want. I mean,
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to see that. That would probably look crazy. Yeah, and so Michael says earlier he was talking about. Okay, hold on. So then he says something else. He says, I mean, for internal links, if we no index a page to avoid Panda issues, if that page has backlinks, will it pass link juice to internal pages it links to? So no, according to our tests and according to what John Mueller says, a no index page no longer passes any juice. The other thing you're talking about there is no indexing a page to escape Panda penalties, Panda problems. Now, that is something that John Mueller said you can do. It's not the best thing to do. The best thing to do, if you no index a page, because it doesn't pass juice anymore, it doesn't rank. Anything it ranked for is done. It doesn't pass juice anymore. It's not going to help you with your domain authorities, so to speak. It's not going to help with any kind of ranking factors if you no index it. So that's not the best thing to do. You're kind of giving yourself a penalty by no indexing it in a way. Now, it could be that if you have a section on your site that is really crappy, thin content, that people are not enjoying at all, that's really crud, and you no index that whole section, and because the whole site had a Panda penalty, maybe the whole site will pop back up. But quite frankly, trying to diagnose, and Ted, you might disagree, but trying to laser diagnose SEO issues like this is really a non-starter these days. They don't announce when the algorithms are released. They don't tell you what the algorithms are doing anymore. So I would look at this in a more holistic experience and look at the quality across your whole site, look at all the technical issues across your whole site, look at all the on-page issues across your whole site, look at all the off-page issues across your whole site. And then I'd make a list of like 50 things to fix, and maybe one of those things in there is the thing we don't know. I would just fix all 50, and I know the rankings will get better, as opposed to try and laser focus. It's kind of a lazy way of doing it, Michael. No offense. To be like, well, I'll just no index this page, and then maybe we'll pop out, and things will be magically better. Ted, do you agree?
I'm not sure. It's such a weird edge case. Like, I normally don't try to get backlinks from no indexed pages. So I think it's a special kind of exception page. And if the page has been penalized, I think there's probably merit to creating a new URL for the content and ranking it in its place. And then you might be able to get around the penalty with redirect chain. I know you have a number of methods for doing that at least used to work. They might still work.
Yeah, I would use canonicals. And so it was especially good when because Google has auto concatenation algorithms for like index.html versus index.htm versus index.php versus default.html. It'll auto or just slash. It'll auto concatenate all those URLs. And so I would, if my Apache server would automatically serve index.html first, I would delete that page and I would canonical index.php to index.html CFM, Cold Fusion or something, right? That's some old CMS that no one even uses anymore, but still is in the Apache server, and Google will still accept as an index page, and that's how I would shake the penalties that way.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's maybe a few ways to address the problem without using no index at all, and I would maybe try those first.
Yeah, I would do a whole SEO audit and find out what really is the problem and the list of 50 problems and fix all those. I wouldn't try and spot check, because this is like what you're trying to do, to use a metaphor, you're trying to shoot a revolver at the moon and nail a rock. Like it's not going to work. You should have a whole set of bazookas firing at the moon, and maybe you'll hit it somewhere there. I know where he's coming from though, Ted. He's saying he wants to spot check this. He wants to kind of take an easy approach to maybe fixing what he perceives to be a Panda ranking problem, which may or may not be Panda at all. And he's thinking, if I no index this page, am I going to stop flowing page rank to all these other pages it's linking to? And the answer is yes. As far as we know, to answer that part, the answer is yes. As far as we know, that's going to start cutting off page rank. So I wouldn't recommend doing it for any. And to rope Steve into the conversation, kind of, if that was your landing page for Facebook, you would still work for Facebook, but you would not get any Google benefit sending traffic to a no index page. That is, I haven't tested that. I could test that too. Actually, that's a good test. Where'd my thing go? Traffic to no index. If only I had a better pen. It's kind of halfway. There we go. Okay, good. So that's another test. Perfect. I'm canvassing for more tests. If you guys have more SEO tests you want me to run, put them in the chat or email me. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions in here. Michael asks, is Panda a site-wide penalty or page-level penalty? Panda itself is a site-wide penalty. A demotion, technically, they call it, but they do have quality algorithms that filter individual pages. So again, as I said, you're never going to nail it. There's Panda plus Panda 1 and Panda Plus and Panda Cousin and the son of Panda and Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator Panda, which is over Steve's shoulder there. There's all the different kinds of algorithms that work together, and so you can't diagnose SEO problems like that anymore. You have to take a holistic approach and follow the guidelines and be like, okay, we've got to do this, and the testing. And when I say guidelines, I mean like my full level of evidence guidelines, not just Google guidelines. And be like, here's all the actual real best practices that I know rank and help. Gonna fix all those things, and then things will drastically improve. Luciano says, Steve was right about page visits versus clicks. I've tested it. If you choose clicks, not necessarily the users go to your site. Thank you, Luciano, for that confirmation. Marco asks, does Steve still do his Facebook training he was talking about a few months ago?
I do, sort of. I was going to do a course, but it's such a fluid process that we kind of went more towards a community. So we have a community that we have, a mastermind group. You can email me at steve@brightsourcemedia.com, and I'll give you some more information on it. But it allows us to, answer questions, have a community. I do webinars and all that kind of stuff. Keep it fluid, because this stuff's so changing. To me, to make a course, it just makes no sense. It's going to be totally different next year.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a reason why I never tell people to buy SEO books.
Yeah.
An SEO book from 10 years ago, I mean, it's 30% of it might still be relevant, but you never know which part. Let me see. Steve says, apparently you can have Facebook ads go to prior visitors to your site. How does that work?
Oh, that's like the golden thing of Facebook. It's retargeting. So what you do is you put a pixel on your website, drive traffic to it with all your SEO efforts, and then this is what a Facebook marketer would do. They would take advantage of your SEO. They would just retarget the people that have already been to your website and for whatever reason didn't convert, and then they would show them an ad. So you build a retargeting audience off of your website by a time interval and show them an ad.
So in the Facebook interface for ads, there's a way to get a pixel. You click, it gives you a pixel, you put that code in the page, and then anyone who gets served that, it'll be tracking.
Yeah, you can go back up to 180 days. Yep.
Sweet. Luciano says, another thing, page visit sends more targeted users if you set your audience well, while click send any people they can. What do you think about that, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, again, clicks are just anybody that'll click the button. So especially if you're over a demographic, like if you're selling like pet toys to people over 55, I mean, you're gonna blow through your whole budget with just people loving to click. Absolutely go page views. So people actually went to your page and looked at it. Even better is send them somewhere in your website so you know that they're, you know, a little bit further down the funnel.
Right on, right on, right on. Okay, so someone actually put a website in here they want me to look at, so I'll see what I can do in the time remaining here. It's called bitsites.com. It's a Bitcoin site. Wow. How did I know it was going to be a Bitcoin site? Everyone and their mom is now running a Bitcoin site.
Yeah, right?
But hey, I mean, it's there. It's where it is. So let me see here some basic things. So let me show you, for those of you who have not seen, my basic kind of, this is like my 10,000 view, just if I want to quickly look at something. Okay, first off, site colon, I would convert this over to .com. Okay, so according to Google, it's a 64-page site. Your URL comes up first. That's a good sign. If the privacy page came up first, that would be a bad sign. And if I do info colon, I'll see what the actual canonical is. So it's the www. That's what it has. Good. Now, you're probably trying to rank for, let me see, what are you trying to rank for? Bitcoin sites, all cryptocurrencies in one place. That's a nice title. It's informative, but it doesn't tell me what you want to rank for. Best Bitcoin faucets 2017. Is that a thing? Okay, so you're probably trying to rank for this, right? First off, I would take a look and I would say, okay, .com, please. Thank you. There we go. So I would crank out SERPworks and I would let that generate to see what it thinks you're going to need to rank, and it's populating. While that's populating, I would search this, the actual query. I would go to .com. If I want to find out what your actual competition was, I would use my start 990 trick, start equals 990. And you actually, for people who are actually trying to optimize for best Bitcoin faucets 2017, unsurprisingly, there's only 21 pages. Only 21 competitors are actually trying, or less than 21 pages are trying to rank for best Bitcoin faucets 2017, or have the best chance of doing so. That's how you would find that out. And going back to here, I would take a look. Okay, so basically, PA is the most important metric. Oops. PA is the closest equivalent we have probably to page rank. DA is just kind of an approximation. Ted and I were having a debate earlier today of how you would calculate if it just gave you DA and not PA, but that we'll save for another conversation. So the keyword density here on average is 0.26. So these guys are way over dense with the 1.32% according to my testing. If the average keyword density for the query is 0.26, you'd want to be around 0.5 probably is where you'd want to be. But obviously, you can't be demoting them that much. They are number one. It is just a rule of thumb, that testing that we do. So here we have a PA of 25, 16, 42, 32. Forget the YouTube. Forget the Bitcoin forum. That's just query deserves diversity, putting it there. 28, 28, 14, 40. So you're going to be between to have a PA of around 30 to 50 to rank on this page. Your trust flow doesn't have to be very high at all. The trust flow is already low, and that's the number of clicks you're getting through those links to have Google trust the links. The size of the pages here, the monthly traffic they're getting, the keywords ranked is low, except for ignore YouTube, ignore the forum. So you don't have to have that big of a, this is another, this is interesting here. If some unrelated forum is getting kind of ranked here, then there's still probably room. They don't have very big sites at all. So you wouldn't need a very big site. You don't need a lot of social media. These guys have some social media. You don't need a lot of social media to help you out. Well, these guys have some social media too. So at a glance, that's what I would say, is I would say, okay, so make sure you have your keyword density set up right. Make sure you're optimized for best Bitcoin faucets 2017. And make sure you need some links. They don't have to have very many clicks. You could probably just get some dirty Black Hat links. Those are not too dirty. You'd probably get in there fine. That would be my best guess there. It's fairly lucrative. It's a $6.79 value keyword. So assuming that's something you actually want to rank for, this should be an H1. Let me inspect that. And yeah, it's an H1. I'm inspecting it in my code thingamajiggy there. See, H1, that's good. If you had an H2 here, this could be an H2. That would be a nice thing. Hey, stop that. Do this. An H2 would be good because it would help with the semantics. I know it's a span, so they would help out if it was an H2. And a thing that John Mueller said very recently, which Kyle from SEO Intelligence Agency has already confirmed, is that Google are big nerds, just like me, and they have read the HTML specification and they believe in the HTML specification. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you've read the HTML specification, you know there's a difference between logical character formatters and style formatters. For example, a strong or emphasis tag versus a bold or italics tag. This is a style formatting. This is a formatting telling you logically what type of information it is. It should be strongly emphasized, right? So H1s, H2s, unordered lists, bulleted lists. Ted, help me out if you remember. If I'm getting it wrong, let me know. Strong tags, emphasized tags. They say if you flesh out your page in a kind of a Roman numeral, 1, title, H1, title, H2, subtitle, paragraph, another H2, next subtitle, next main topic, H1. If you break it down in this logical kind of, you're writing a high school essay kind of format, John Mueller basically admitted it gives you a boost, and Kyle's already proven it gives you a boost because it's easier for Google to understand what that page is about. So that's another recommendation. Although John Mueller did mention that they do have code written that will parse your cascading style sheets to see what you've made look big as a title and look as a small subtitle. And so they might be able to, this page might be fine because that's a span, but it looks like an H2. And so it might be all right. And also, it was very interesting that John Mueller said that because it tells us why they need to parse the page. Remember in Search Console, they said not to block out any robot text, out any JavaScript or CSS that helps render the page. This is why, because they're trying to figure out better what's on that page and what's the main content and the sub-content. And by roboting it out, you're not allowing them to do that. So this has been the White Hat versus Black Hat SEO show. I'd like to thank all you folks for asking questions. That's all the time we have for today. I would like to throw it over to Ted and Steve for your final thoughts. This is the final thoughts segment. Gentlemen, what are your final thoughts for today?
Well, when Josh said go get some Black Hat links, I strongly suggest you set up a microsite, link the microsite to your money site, and put the Black Hat links to the microsite. Never make a mess you can't clean up.
Yes, that might be a good idea. There are 301 forwarders out there that you can edit. So you can point the links to a page, the real page first and change them later, or you want to test to see if they have any juice, point the 301 to some other page, a test page, see if it goes up, and if it does, then redirect it to your targeted money site page. Those are called link routers, and I strongly recommend them. You can also do internal link routers, like I already mentioned today. You could point to page A canonicals to page B, right? And so if you ever have a problem with links, you just delete page A and make it serve at a 410 on that URL, and the link no longer points to you. For a link to work in Google, you need two things. You need the link to be on a backlink page, and it needs to resolve to a 200 page on your server. Even if that's a URL parameter, that's a 200 response from your server. And Steve, what's your final thought for today?
Final thought is 1, add a pixel. 2, do not run traffic ads, run page view conversion ads. 3, retarget. Do those together and you will be styling.
You will be styling. Perfect.
Get a pen.
And get a pen. Get a pen that works so you can write down
SEO. A Pilot G2. It's nice.
Nice. Perfect. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us for White Hat versus Black Hat SEO show. And thank you all for watching. If you have any SEO questions at all, please feel free to email me at joshbachynski@gmail.com. I'll answer any SEO questions that I have time to answer. You can also get more information from me at Josh Bachynski on Twitter. And you can find more videos like this with SEO experiments, SEO secrets, SEO leaks, all the best SEO stuff that's out there, period, bar none, at youtube.com/jbachins. That's JBACHYNS. We want you to succeed. That's why we are here. We are not selling you anything except for great knowledge that we give out for free. So join us again next week for White Hat versus Black Hat, and good luck in the SERPs.